Hi, everybody. Jacob Wohl coming to you live from Washington, D.C. to give you an update on the sexual assault allegations against Robert Mueller. The story begins when a client of my firm, Surefire Intelligence, who had hired us to handle an estate matter earlier this year, track down some assets that were misappropriated by her accountant, brought me a story that, frankly, I didn't believe. I'm the biggest skeptic in the world of the Me Too movement. My default position is not to believe the women. You've seen that over and over again, as one story after another has come out. And that indeed was my default position in this case. I don't care who's getting accused or who's accusing. My default position is I don't believe it until it's proven, until it's corroborated. I went through the story with the accuser, the gal who had hired our firm, and I asked her many questions. Where did it happen? When did it happen? Do you have any corroborating witnesses? And over again, I determined her credibility to be very high. Very high. It's important that I add as well, there was no quid pro quo here. She was not offered any money. There was no exchange of any kind that happened between myself, between Mr. Burkman here, and this accuser. The only person that claims any such thing, any kind of quid pro quo, any kind of payment, any kind of bribery or impropriety, which are all things that we condemn, is a woman who the media has brought forth and breathlessly reported on, who appears to not even exist, I might add. So we've got one woman who doesn't exist who says that she was offered payment, and the media is reporting on that, to distract from and discredit the real allegation. Who is this woman? Who created her? Probably Mueller, probably the mainstream media. I don't know. That will probably come out at some point as well. Ms. Cass gave us her story. She went point by point. She gave us time. She gave us dates. We carefully vetted that story. We wrote it into an affidavit, which she has signed. She also has a corroborating witness. Now, the next thing to add is that the accuser is not a person off the streets. This is a person of unimpeachable character. This is a person with an illustrious background as a fashion designer, well-educated, well-networked, well-liked. This is not a person that somebody dragged up from some politically charged area. In fact, she's not politically charged at all. Never registered to vote, never voted, in fact. So this is not a political operation. This has very little to do with politics. Now, I understand the political sensitivity of this. It has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with getting the truth out about a person who is wielding a tremendous amount of power. And we've seen what he's done with it. Somebody comes out and says they were offered money. Turns out the person doesn't exist. But what does Robert Mueller do? He issues a referral to the FBI to investigate. To investigate what? Now, Jack here's a lawyer. I'm not. So I'd like Jack to reflect on that part specifically, because I think it's just unconscionable that Mueller is now trying to suppress allegations against him.
You say it very well. Not a lawyer, but you say it very well. Well, good evening. I would say a couple things. As I will do tomorrow at the press conference, I want to debunk this whole sad and tragic backstory so we can get the focus back on our gal, our accuser, and the main story. Now, this backstory is absurd. There's two parts to it. A, there's this reference to a woman, Lorraine Parsons, whom we allegedly paid. We didn't pay her. The only problem is Lorraine Parsons doesn't exist. She's a phantom that somebody conjured. We don't know whom. That's A. B, there's a woman named Jennifer Taub who does exist, but she received some email referencing in a vague way payment from a person who doesn't exist. That email also had nothing to do with us. I think you can very quickly see, anybody with an IQ above 80 can very quickly see that there is no truth whatsoever to this backstory and these allegations. We can only surmise as to who did this. My strong suspicion is it was done to slow us down. Every reporter in the country, from the smallest blog all the way up to NBC News, knows very well that you don't run a story about Lorraine Parsons before you even talk to Lorraine Parsons. So I think it's a ridiculous. Last few days have been ridiculous more than anything else. But I think tomorrow, when we present the allegations, we will regain the initiative, and that's the key.
Add something here. The reaction of the press has been one of the most disturbing things that I've ever seen, where I have essentially been accused, or my firm has been accused, of offering payment in exchange for allegations, something which would be reprehensible, something which would be illegal, something which would be disgusting. And I've been accused of this by a person who presumably doesn't exist. We can't find her. I've got access to the best private investigative databases in the world. I've had former FBI agents look into this woman. She does not exist. But the media breathlessly reported her allegation. And look what has happened. I have had Oliver Darcy from CNN calling up my 11-year-old sister while she's sitting in her 6th grade classroom over and over again. I have had Rachel Maddow implicating my mother in this simply because my cell phone happens to be on a family plan, something which is perfectly normal.
The business of terrorizing a girl, 11 or 12-year-old girl, that's very serious business. That's something that should be looked into by law enforcement.
And it has been reported to law enforcement. Now, this is all an effort, as we know, to protect Robert Mueller, whom many people know to be a character who is not on the up and up. These allegations will come forward. The accusers will tell their stories in a credible way with corroboration. Now, believe me, we've received plenty of BS accusations where we get somebody who comes in, they've got some story to tell about Mueller, we look into it, it's like, hey, he wasn't even there. Sorry. You don't have a witness? Maybe, okay, but we can't help you. We are bringing forth accusations against Robert Mueller, which are 100% credible. Now, Alicia, if you have any questions.
How did you come in contact with this accuser and the other accusers, especially because you're being accused of trying to pay them to make allegations?
Sure. Well, again, I want to first take the last part of what you said, which is being accused of paying for allegations. By whom? By this Lorraine Parsons, who once again appears to be a concoction of the media or Robert Mueller, we don't know. Now, the first part, how did I come into contact with her? I covered that a little bit early in the video, but I came into contact with her because she hired our firm to conduct an asset search for assets that were misappropriated from her trust by a dirty accountant, which we did very effectively. She was very happy with the work we did. And several months later, she had a story to tell. It was, frankly, happenstance. And we carefully vetted it. We went through every point of her allegation. Where? When? Who else was there? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Everything else. And despite the tremendous trauma of the event, and I can only really imagine what it's like, but despite the tremendous trauma of the event, she went through clinically and with us verified every single detail of what she had to say.
When did you start vetting her case, her allegations, and meet her?
We started vetting her case at around the beginning of October, maybe late September.
So why did you come forward now? People will probably assume it's because it's right before midterm elections.
Well, we came forward now because this is the soonest time in which we felt comfortable coming forward. We needed to make sure that this was rock solid. We were not going to bring forward a Christine Blasey Ford who's going to get up there and say, I don't remember when it happened. I don't remember where it happened. Sometime in the 80s. Who was there? Oh, they say it didn't happen. In this case, not only is the accuser credible, but one of her best friends who was also there watched her go up to the hotel room, allegedly with Robert Mueller. This corroborating witness is also very credible. This is not a person who's looking for profit. These are not people who are politically motivated. These people aren't political. They've never voted. And they're certainly not looking for profit, and they certainly don't need profit. I'll put it this way. These are a couple of very wealthy people, prominent people, well-heeled people.
And how many accusers are there? And can you tell me what she says happened between Mueller and her? And
Sure.
what happened, when, how, why?
Yes. So right now, we've got one accuser which we're ready to bring forward. We've got 3 accusers who are in the almost there stage where we are almost done vetting what they're doing, and it seems as if they're very credible. Now, something could come up in the last 10% of our vetting process that could make them ineligible, make them not credible, and we would obviously dump them and get rid of them immediately. But this person is credible. This person is ready to go. And, of course, we've also received a flurry, since this point, a flurry of new claims, new allegations, new people who want to talk to us. Again, I've looked at a bunch of them. A bunch of them are BS, okay? And I realize that a lot of false allegations are made. We saw that against Justice Kavanaugh. I understand that better than anyone else. But this accuser is credible. Her claim is corroborated, and it deserves to be heard. And Robert Mueller has something to account for here, I think. But we'll see that after it comes out.
What about those claims that say he was at jury duty when the alleged sexual assault happened?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean,
is that the woman who doesn't exist? Is that what they're referring to, or this woman that's coming?
Yeah, I've seen really ridiculous claims. I've seen some stuff to that effect. What I do know is that upon vetting her story, when she told us it was the kind of first week of August, between the 2nd and the 5th, or sometime in that range, immediately what we tried to do is secure records of what Robert Mueller was up to. We signed up for historical societies to gain records, to gain calendars, to gain anything we could do. And our prerogative to get to the point where her accusation was true, we were trying to actually disprove it. We're trying to throw these things out as quickly as possible. I didn't want to believe that somebody in our country in such a position of power did something like this. I mean, as far as I can tell, there wasn't much like this out there. We would have heard about it already. So we went through carefully and we looked at it. And during those dates when she claims this happened, lo and behold, Robert Mueller's in New York City for a cyber law enforcement conference in which he was a keynote speaker, and everything matches up, along with other things she claims that also match up. There were things that she just wouldn't know. For instance, she said he wasn't wearing a wedding ring. Well, we talked to people close to Mueller. We talked to people who have worked with him, and they say he doesn't wear a wedding ring. They're not sure why, perhaps an injury, but they don't know. There were other details that she knew that you just wouldn't know. You just wouldn't know unless this were real.
Jack, what do you have to say?
Jacob covers it for once. I think I'm speechless. Jacob covers it so well. I don't know what I can really add. I find it interesting that Mueller is already defending himself when we haven't even held haven't held our press conference yet. The special counsel's office is already talking about when and where he had jury duty. It's a strange kind of response. It reminds me of what an old Texas girlfriend once said: "The guilty dog barks first." I think he's barking.
Are you guys afraid of the repercussions of this, of the FBI planting, framing you guys? It seems like they're already starting to do that based on what you've said.
I don't think we have much to be framed over. I'm not worried at all. I mean, we've got Lorraine Parsons. There are only the 2 emails. Lorraine Parsons doesn't exist, so all that's off the table. Jen Taub exists. But first of all, the email's vague. Secondly, it comes from a person we don't know, never heard of. It's a fake person. Anybody can create a proton mail. Me, you, her, the person, the hobo on the street. Anybody can create a proton mail. So I don't know. The bum on the street can make proton mails. Campaigns do it all the time. So I really don't. I just don't see it.
And by the way, I might add, it's a bit suspicious. The language was odd. This Simon Frick individual. It's a strange name. They pointed out that they were actors supposedly. Immediately after this stuff came out, people started throwing up LinkedIn profiles of Surefire Intelligence supposed employees. There was one profile, and I don't mean to make light of this, but there was one profile that had me in what looked like I was wearing a corn costume, like a corn stalk, a piece of corn. There was one that had a picture of me and Trump photoshopped kissing. So their proof of these allegations is, well, there's LinkedIn profiles and well, there's proton mail emails, which is a favorite of fake news journalists, I might add. They love proton mail. So this whole thing is a crock. This person making these allegations is full of it. And actually, I would welcome that the FBI find out for me who Lorraine Parsons is. Maybe they've got some secret database that I'm not sure about where they can find this Lorraine Parsons.
Tell you what, if they can find Lorraine Parsons, I'm happy to testify under oath.
Yeah, if they can find Lorraine Parsons, I will do the same. I will testify under oath. And by the way, I'd like to cross-examine this Lorraine Parsons. But like I said, my guess is she doesn't exist.
Now, your accuser says that Mueller sexually assaulted her. How? When?
Well, we're going to
We'll do that tomorrow. We'll do all that.
yeah, we're going to detail the allegations tomorrow.
Conference is tomorrow. When?
Tomorrow, high noon.
Yeah, high noon. I will add that the allegations are very serious. This is not, a little bit, oops, he accidentally bumped into me in the elevator. This is very serious stuff.
Tell us again where the press conference is.
Holiday Inn, Roslyn, Holiday Inn, Roslyn, North Fort Myer Drive, right near the Key Bridge, right next to the Marriott, near our offices, actually. It's about, just 2 minutes from the Key Bridge, 5 minutes from Georgetown.
Thanks, guys. Anything you want to add?
Thank you.
No, I would just say that the press has said a lot. Some of them have called up harassing me. But if they really want to ask questions and they really want to get to the truth, they should stop coming up with fake people to make accusations against me, and they should show up at the press conference and ask a question to my face.